Joining us now, live from the Lincoln Center premiere of the new documentary, The Tillman Story, about the friendly fire victim Pat Tillman, is the filmmaker behind other documentary works such as Sicko and Capitalism, A Love Story, Michael Moore. Michael, thanks for taking some time out here to join us tonight.
Thank you, Keith. And by the way, if you have a chance to see this movie, these people have done an incredible job of telling Pat Tillman's the true story. And you were on this story a long time ago, and I think you'll love to see this movie. It's a great documentary.
I intend to. Let me ask you it this way. I don't know if I don't know if I'm professional left here, but I'm sure as hell sure that you are. Your response to the interview Mr. Gibbs did and the statement he has released today.
Well, I've never heard the left referred to with the word professional. In fact, I don't know if I should take offense at that, because first of all, it implies that we're organized. And it's I think, you know, when Mr. Gibbs is worried about what people on the left are smoking, from my experience, the person in the room who's most paranoid about who's smoking what is usually the person smoking the really heavy stuff. So it was an odd lashing out. I don't know. It's hot in Washington. I heard that excuse. He just kind of went off the handle. Fortunately, there wasn't an emergency slide nearby, so nobody was harmed. But I think that what's bothering them is that liberals and the left have been right from the beginning. From the beginning of this administration, what did people on our side of the fence say? You should take over these banks temporarily and fire all the thieves who stole our money. But instead, what did they do? They enabled them. They called for more offshore oil drilling. They expanded the war in Afghanistan. The stimulus package, they caved into the Republicans. They didn't get, everything that we've been trying to push them to do has now come back to bite them in a profound way, to the point where they're very frightened, as they should be, about the election in a couple of months. And frankly, we're frightened about it too, because the last thing any of us want to have happen is for the Republicans to come back in any form of power in Congress or wherever. So to go after your core base, I mean, the people that are really the ones who go out there and carry the water for you, to do the hard work. It's like, I mean, this is the guy, Gibbs. You don't want him like drafting the fundraising letter for the next election cycle. It'll begin something like, "Dear biggest Obama supporters, you suck. Now send us money, please." It's totally crazy.
This is particularly tough for me, because I like Mr. Gibbs and I like him a lot, and I think generally speaking he does a great job, and I like Mr. Burton particularly, and I think he does a great job too. But when the two of them claim that the professional left, again to use their term, does not represent voters on the left, A, is that true? And B, if they don't represent anybody, why does it matter what they have to say?
Well, of course it's true that, I mean, the people, the left, or the liberal majority elected Barack Obama. I mean, the majority of Americans didn't want the other way. In fact, they didn't want it in such a large way. They not only elected him by millions of votes over John McCain, they wanted a solid majority in both the House and the Senate, a huge majority. That's what Americans said they wanted, because they wanted real change. And instead, what they've gotten is this sort of, you know, backing away every time that it comes to a fight with the people who put us in this horrible situation to begin with. And it was just so odd. The first thing off the top of his head was, yeah, you know, these people want Canadian health care. Well, yeah, because what's Canadian health care except everyone is covered, which they won't be still, and it's going to cost a third to half less, which is what it costs in Canada, what we pay. And oh, and by the way, people live almost 3 years longer than we do in Canada. So what? I just didn't understand why that was the first thing out of his mouth, was the Canadian healthcare was the big thing they're worried about.
Last point. The White House notes that the president continues to have high poll numbers among liberals. The Congressman Raul Grijalva told the Huffington Post today that he's hearing from his base that the administration has not met its expectations. Do you think the White House is missing one thing here, that voters can be both dissatisfied but also still generally supportive of an administration, especially, as you pointed out earlier, considering the alternative?
Yes. Yes, the hardcore base is going to show up and vote in November, and they're going to vote for the Democrats, regardless of all this hoo-ha that's going on. The problem, and they know this from their own polling, is that that next large group of people that go to the soft middle, that voted for Obama, but are no longer enthused and excited, they know that the vote for Democratic politicians has been depressed now. And those people aren't going to vote for Republicans either. They're just going to stay home. And that's the biggest fear, that people will stay home in November and Republicans may take power again in the House or the Senate. And it's a legitimate fear on their part. But to go after the base, I heard David Frum say something a few days ago. He said he's always had this theory that Republican politicians fear their base, but Democratic politicians hate their base. Yeah. That kind of hate ain't going to get them reelected, and they better get busy trying to fight the fight for the working people out there who put him into office in the first place. They want to vote for him again, but they're not very excited or enthused right now. And nothing I or you or anybody else is going to make that enthusiasm just appear again. It's going to have to happen through actual action on the part of the administration. So the ball's in their court, and to blame cable news, and I mean, I do realize that you and Rachel are in charge of all of us, and you take the odd weeks and she takes the even weeks to be in charge, and
you're damn right.
Send the directives out to all of us on what to think. But it's nobody wants to go back to the old days. So Gibbs is right. We're all on the same team here, and we better start with a better game plan than the one that they've been using for the last 18 months or so.
Michael Moore at the premiere of the Tillman story. Great, thanks again for ducking out with us, and your orders will be in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade.
Thank you, sir.